Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this special edition of Roll Call. Gisela K, Grizzly True Crime. Thank you so much for coming here. This is awesome. I know we've spoken a couple times on your show, but having you on mine is really cool. Great to see you again.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I was telling the Grizzly patrons it's been about a year and a half in the making because you'd asked me a while ago and I was a little too shy at that point. They didn't believe me, but I was. So
Yeah,
I'm so glad to be here.
yeah, no, so glad. Yeah, you're doing the TV shows, the core TV and everything. So it's actually awesome. It's great that everybody's introduced to the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are
Yes.
taking over. They've already, yeah, we're over 200 already into the room. So welcome to all the Grizzlies.
Good.
So, Gisela, we have a lot of stuff to cover, right? So, we have a couple of big cases. I'd like to start off with the Stephan Sterns case. And for those that are unfamiliar with it, all the links for Grizzly True Crime are going to show up from Nightbot in the chat, and it's also in the show notes too. So, if you've missed any of the really in-depth stuff, you can head over there. But today we're going to touch on a couple of major cases. So, let's get your initial thoughts on what's happening right now with Stephan Sterns.
If I may, I'm not
Sure.
trying to correct you, but I like to call it obviously the Madeline Soto case because
Okay.
Stefan Stearns can just, yeah, no, I can't
Yeah,
wait.
he's disgusting. Yeah, I
Which I
hear you.
just like, I really, all he gets all my snark going. So I'm just like, okay, this case, I always remind everyone it's about Madeline Soto and it's her case and it will be named as such. But of course, he's the suspect. He's going to have two trials in 2025. He is accused of not only murdering 13-year-old, and she was only 13 for 4 days, 13-year-old Madeline Soto on February 26th of 2024, but then also sexually abusing her for about 4 to 5 years. So starting from when she was 8 years old, they found horrifying evidence on his phone. So they've decided to have two trials. One will be for the CSAM child SA material, charges 60 of them, each one representing 10 or more images or videos. So 10 or more. That's also scary. There's 1,700 just related
Yeah.
to Madeline Soto. And then the second trial, that one is so far, it's changed a lot. The Grizzlies will know it's changed a lot. Okay, write it in pencil. July 14th is the new date for that trial. And the second trial will be the murder one. That'll be for September 22nd. So I'm looking forward to both. I don't know if they'll stream the first one or not. But what a horrifying case. It's truly
Yeah.
disgusting.
It's absolutely, yeah. And I remember I think I was on your show when we talked about this when this was first going on. I mean, the issue that really comes down to is we know that the courtroom is going to have the cameras in it. We know he lost that one already, right? Which was good. I saw your video on that one, so that was yeah, quite satisfying because this guy deserves no quarter as far as I'm concerned. And the issue that also comes down to now is this first trial has been put off because of basically an evidence issue. So we're going to get into that right now. What's
Yes. Yeah, and I want to pick your law enforcement brain, even though I'm the
okay.
guest here. I want to pick your
That's
brain,
okay. No,
as always.
they're here to see you.
I mean, you have so much experience. So, were you able to ever hear some of those like clips that I played or things of how they actually got him to basically hand over his phone?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
to me,
Well,
it sounded like consent over and over and over and over again. But do you think they did it wrong?
listen. Consent is always the easiest. Is the path of least resistance. Let's put it that way. But the problem is when you're dealing with that, now you have a he said, she said, or you tricked me, you coerced me, and this is the problem. So when you're dealing with a case like this, and they initially get consent, and when they found the photos or whether they should have just stopped right then and there and said, listen, on to the district attorney and say, listen, we got asked for the phone, he gave us consent, we looked at the phone, we looked at the maps, doesn't add up, then we saw this picture, we stopped looking and then get the search warrant, right? Go to this. They said, yeah, let's go to the judge and get the search warrant. They had probable cause at that point to go ahead and do that. And they would explain the entire consent thing. So in the United States, when you get to give consent, there's three things that they look for. Is it voluntarily done? Is it intelligently done? Meaning, are you old enough to do it, right? So you get an 8-year-old can't give the police, consent to search their parents' house. So voluntarily, intelligently, and knowingly, like knowingly that if you do this, this becomes a problem for you. So, most bad guys want to say, yeah, sure, you could do this, you could do that, because it looks as if I'm guilty if I want to fight this. So to me, I don't think they're going to have an issue. I think the judge will eventually rule in their favor. But when I've taught law enforcement, I've always said to them, get the warrant because it just relieves so many issues.
Yes, they did eventually get the warrant because they weren't looking for CSAM material. They actually just wanted to look at his maps and just look because they knew he's lying based on where he said he'd been. The surveillance cameras showed he was going the opposite direction, and that he didn't actually forget his gate clicker, and he was driving around with a deceased 13-year-old strapped into the front of the vehicle. That still is like so shocking to me. I don't know if there was a traffic stop or a car crash or anything. But eventually, when they asked him for the passcode of the phone and they got into the phone and they looked at things, then when they saw pictures repopulating from his Google account, they did then get a search warrant to see, well, for his Google account. But I understand it's actually quite a debate, and I think the defense has done a good job by bringing all that up. The judge is going to rule on that by June 30th. So we'll know by the end of June what he's going to decide. And of course, it's a huge deal because if he rules, well, this is all out, then the first trial is out.
Yeah. No, I think he's going to actually do that. But I said, just get the warrant in the initial stages because it just we wouldn't be talking about this at this point. Let's put it that way. And then the first case hangs in the balance now. So he's going to take, I think, 30 days or so to look at this, right? By the end of June, I think it's going to be. So I guess they're going to have to go through all the Florida state law and take a look at some of the other previous cases and be able to see if they can do it. But I think ultimately the consent argument is going to win.
I think so as well, because he could have withdrawn his consent as well at any point, which he didn't. And he thought he was clever because he factory reset his phone. So he's like, sure, I'm going to look innocent. And factory reset my phone. So go ahead. Not realizing, oh, crap, they're going to find everything.
Yeah, including the fact that when you try to reset your phone or you do reset your phone, there's a record of that. So he kind of pigeons himself in the corner. Sippy, thank you very much for that. Denise, heading to Kohberger hearing, listening while I drive. Drive carefully, please, Denise.
Yes. Just
please.
Listening, not watching.
And then Jen, oh my God, my two favorites in the morning today is going to be great. Yes, Jen. Having Gisela here is a real treat for everybody, including myself. So all the Grizzlies we are now over 450 people watching this live. Nice. Yeah, I think we're going to set a record today, Gisela, for me. I think we're going to set a record.
The Grizzlies better show up. Thank you all for being here, by the way.
So let's talk about Sterns' major faux pas, these jailhouse calls. Now I know you covered them. Yeah. Oh my. You know what? This isn't the first case recently where bad guys are talking on the phone and everything. Your mail gets recorded. Your phone calls get recorded. Everything gets recorded. You have no right to privacy when you're in prison, and you can't believe it that you get this stuff. But I think he made a pretty damaging statement to his mother, and actually the mother kind of threw him under the bus too.
Yeah, he pretty much walked right into that one because his parents are very curious, of course, and all the calls are like him begging his parents for commissary, of course. And we only have calls from May and June of 2024. Can you imagine the rest? But obviously, right. I think we're only getting ones that the district attorney would find useful for their case. And wow, I do think they're going to play those at trial because not only does he admit to finding Madeleine Soto deceased in the house, in the room where he last was with her, but then also just saying, yeah, I wasn't in my right state of mind. I just snapped at that point. I mean, wow. I mean, they're really, really going to use that against him. What a dumbass. Because, there's like 2 minutes of this call is recorded and all that stuff they say before the time. So what was he thinking? Why are you telling your parents all of this?
Yeah, like here's the quote, or some substances. I wish I would have run downstairs and shaken her awake and called 911 and all that. And then the mother responded, I wish you had too. Maybe she could have been saved. I mean, that is not something like you would expect from the mother of the suspect. Don't worry about it. These are things of that. No, she basically just threw him under the bus.
Yes. So, I mean, she tends to, obviously it's her son, so she supports him a lot. But sometimes between the two, the statements that go back and forth, that's really damaging for his case. His attorneys, they must be so frustrated at this point, especially that obviously all of us YouTubers can hear those calls too. We're like, wow, this is so damaging.
Yeah, no, they are. I mean, and like I said, if there was any mail too, now, I mean, if he's willing to talk on the phone, he's willing to write things down too. So it's no matter how many times you tell people, like, don't do this, don't do that, they can't help themselves. It's absolutely amazing. But thank God
Yeah,
they can't, because it makes law enforcement's job easier, and then the prosecutor's job is going to be much easier too. Because this guy is a bad,
absolutely.
yeah, this guy's been charged with some horrendous things. I mean, good grief. I mean, we're not going to go into the list because we'll get banned. But the
Yeah.
issue that, yeah, that I learned really quick, right? Because you mentioned a couple of words, the next thing you know, they zap you. But
Yeah.
you know, basically, I mean, you are concerned about the fruits of the poisonous tree with this, with his cell phone, right? The fruits of the poisonous tree. Anything, if you find something, even if it was done, if it was done illegally first, and you find something else afterwards, even if it's plain view, it's going to be thrown out. So that is a big concern. I think that's my only concern right now, in regards to the first trial.
Yes. Luckily, maybe that's why they, I don't know if that's why they separated the trials. Maybe that would be part of the strategy, that if they are then able to have all this evidence in, have the first trial, convict him, which is quite likely. I can't believe he's actually taking that to trial based on all the evidence they have on his phone. Damn, but then it would be an aggravating factor for the death penalty for the next trial. So it will kind of strengthen their case there. But even if this trial, the first one, falls away for the CSAM charges, yeah, he's still going to face those homicide charges. I mean, there's other evidence. His DNA is directly linked to Madeline Soto's body.
Yes.
So that came out just a few months ago. And it's like, oh my, they've got that, they've got the vehicle, they've obviously got his now jailhouse, pretty much confessions at this point with all the things he's saying. So they have a lot there. So I think he will
And there's
still
video
never get out.
surveillance too. Yeah, I think there's
Yeah.
video
Yeah.
surveillance too, right? So
Yeah.
the three main things I always, right, I refer to them as the forensic horsemen: video surveillance, internet records, and cell phone records. All play a big role in the three cases that we're talking about today. More so on the Kohberger when we get into that, but this this case for sure. I mean, I know I've heard a couple other arguments about, inevitable discovery with the phone, right? They would have found all this stuff eventually anyway. Inevitable discovery is a thing, as an exception to, search warrants and stuff like that, but I'm not buying it on this one. They get consent, get the search warrant, that's it. But you know what? Guys, if you're listening, if law enforcement is listening to it, just get the warrant. Make everybody's life easier, please, including your own, because now you're going to have to go on the stand and defend yourself about your actions and what you did, and the defense is going to say that you
Yes.
coerced my client.
We saw that. We saw that at a recent hearing as well. And I must say the audience's opinions were quite divided when we saw that. Some really think they didn't do the right thing, and some think, no, man. No. Obviously, I'm just busy with Stephan Sterns and his consent and the stunts he's pulling lately of like, I don't want cameras in the courtroom. I want privacy. Oh, you want privacy now?
Yeah, not in
Yeah, I don't
Florida.
think so.
He wasn't getting that in Florida. No way, no how. I
Yeah.
mean, Florida, we know, is very conservative in regards to certain things. And that one, I knew that one was going to get thrown out as soon as I heard it. I said, "Yep, not that venue, kid. No way."
Yes. So they arrested him very quickly. Madeline Soto was believed to have been murdered in the early morning hours of February 26th, and he was already arrested on the 28th. That's when they looked at his phone from the 27th. So do you think they would have been able to get a search warrant that quickly if they thought, we're talking to this guy, he's lying about his location, get a search warrant? Do you think that, like, how soon could that
Well,
happen?
well, I mean, the whole fact would have been, did they have probable cause to get the search warrant, right? So that's the major question. So getting the consent initially, I think, was a good move, because I don't know if they had, they had suspicion, I'm sure. I mean, listen, most people, when they're victimized, is by someone they know. And when you have a situation like this with a young girl and you have this guy, whatever, I think they zoned on him pretty quickly, when things weren't matching up. And like I said, doing that interview, the mother doing the interview with the news and him sitting behind her. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
talk about a bad idea. That was,
That was
yeah,
that was so bad. I mean, him cracking his knuckles in the background and just being there, but then later being on camera with his fake crying. Wow. The first time we saw that, because it was very soon after Madeline was reported missing. So at first, when I covered it, it was obviously a missing child's case, a missing teen. Okay, now I was really hoping they would find her, of course, alive and well. But when we all saw that interview, it's like, what is up with these two? Not even just the one, but what is going on here? Something isn't right.
yeah.
So yeah.
No, I know, and a lot of people are focusing in on the mother and this and that, whatever. But I always tell people, if there's evidence to suggest that the other individual, in this case the mother, is involved with it, believe me, they're not going to hold back. You know.
Yes, come on. We want to see a couple of handcuffs come out.
Yeah, that's what everybody wants to see. But
Yes.
you need to have some evidence. I mean, she could be a victim herself in so many aspects, and I think we're going to learn more about that, specifically in the first trial. I think they're going to paint
Oh,
that
yes.
picture pretty quickly. So
Interesting.
before
Yeah.
we wrap up the case against Stephan Sterns, is there anything that we should know about? Anything that you think we should concentrate on going forward in that?
No, I'm just keeping a close eye on all these court hearings and the trial dates. The next court hearing is July 2nd of 2025. That will be a pre-trial hearing for the first trial, which is now, it's been postponed multiple times. Now it's set for July 14th. Of course, Grizzly Cat and I are always making FOIA requests at all the different agencies and the DA's office to see if we can get more. Can we get more jail calls? Can we see anything else? What else can we learn from this case? Because it's obviously Florida, Sunshine State laws. You can get a lot there. And it's just very interesting to see how everything has unfolded. So I think just keeping an eye on the court hearings. And of course, I will be covering everything, including sometimes his jail records. What's he eating? What's he doing? What did he do next? He just had a disciplinary recently as well. So yeah, I'm keeping a very close eye on him.
Good, good. Yeah, he needs it. So let's switch right into another contentious case. Bryan Kohberger, right? So we knew this case is starting to shape up like I referred to it as the Karen Reed case of the West, because people have drawn the line in the sand on this case too, and it's getting contentious on a lot of things. But I'm just gonna say them again though: cell phone records, internet records, and video surveillance. My God, right? So originally, people only thought that the cops had this, or the cops had a little bit of this. Where's all the now because of this it was an NBC Dateline.
Yes.
Yeah, wow. Where this case is starting to fall into place, and I'm actually liking what I'm seeing in regards for the prosecution, in regards to what is really transpired that night and leading up to it. So I know I watched the whole show that you had done on the Dateline thing. What was your major takeaway though from that whole thing? What was to you that you felt was the most important part of what they discovered?
I think the Amazon searches for the K-bar. So buying a K-bar knife, which is believed to be the murder weapon based on the knife sheath with his DNA being left behind. So buying that K-bar knife, and they have evidence of that, and just how they made it like visual, the way they did it on Dateline, like showing Amazon and someone typing in. So it's a K-bar knife, sheath, and a sharpener. Buying that in March of 2022, and then moving there eventually, of course, to Washington. And then after the murders, which took place on November 13th of 2022, wow, he's already searching the University of Idaho murders on the 15th. And then after that, he's literally looking for a sheath. According to what we know, this is just based on what they presented. And also it's based on some court documents that we've seen recently alluding to all of that. I think they'll be discussing more of that today in the pretrial hearing as well. Final decisions will be made. But damn, looking for a sheath. Not knife and sheath, not just lots of knives, not collecting knives, looking for a sheath and saying, buy now, and then stopping. And then looking again a few days later, okay, now knife and sheath. Buy now. Nope, we're not going to buy. That was just like, oh man, that just seemed quite bad for him.
Yeah, very bad for him. The idea of those internet searches for the K-bar knife. I mean, talk about a treasure trove of information now for the police in regards to this thing. I mean, it's starting to. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say, well, it's all circumstantial evidence, and this. Yeah, but you can convict somebody on circumstantial evidence. I don't know where people got, oh, you can't convict anybody on circumstantial evidence. I'm like, yeah, really? Where most cases are on that
Yeah,
that spectrum, so to speak, in regards to
true.
some of these cases. So I can't imagine what exactly some people are referring to in that respect. But yeah, no, the cell phone. But I'm really interested in the video surveillance, right? So we saw the video surveillance of the other house. So we had this car going back and forth in a different direction, right? And then taking off at the end. It actually captured, we know some sound, right, with the dog barking and what have you. But did they get video surveillance of other days where the car is driving around? Like, whether they get a
Oh,
day shot
yes.
of this, right? So if they have this night shot, there's a good chance they have it on a day shot video, and that would then kind of put this whole white Elantra thing to bed, too, in regards to that.
Yes. Is it white? Is it green? What color is it? There's a lot of debate online right now. There's a lot of, as you say, people have drawn a line in the sand, and it's getting quite interesting. Um, But seeing that footage in the time frame that they believe the murders were committed, ooh, that was quite something. And then, driving away at a faster speed, some people believe that the footage was manipulated or, sped up or something. But either way, it's there. There's a vehicle there at those times
Yeah.
and disappears out of sight in the time frame that the murders were committed. That was interesting. But man, I'm sure we would probably see it at the trial. Daytime footage would be so interesting to see because we haven't seen that with all the leaked surveillance footage, even from YouTubers, previously from, I think it was Linda Lane or whatever, like all that footage we've seen. There's nothing in the day yet, but yet they claim he went back the next morning, just after 9. So imagine seeing that.
Right. That's exactly what I was referring to, right? Because we know that he returns to the scene of the crime allegedly, and he, in order to do that, he's got to drive by that house. So with the video surveillance, and I tell you, that camera was actually pretty good when you think about it, especially for night vision. I mean, it was pretty
Yes.
clear. I mean, yes, the you get the starburst from the headlights, but still, it was still pretty clear in regards to what was actually. Well, you could see a car, right? Yeah, we can argue about the colors, this and that, but I guess if you think white, you'll see white. In regards to
Yes.
the car. Yeah, it's a little
Yes.
hard to tell. But let's talk a little bit about his internet searches too, which kind
Ooh.
of yeah. And what's the
Yeah.
first thing that
So
jumped off the page? Let's hear your take. What's the first thing that jumped off the page for his internet searches?
So most of them, like the Ted Bundy searches and, listening to certain songs and watching YouTubers, of course, all of that was interesting. But yet I was like, it could be based on his studies. Obviously not after the murders. Looking at the YouTubers coverage is interesting. But what jumped out at me was his, the PORN. I'm going to censor for YouTube. Okay. That category of searches. Wow. We really have to censor. Forced and sleeping and rugged, those type of things.
Yeah,
That was very interesting. That got a little bit dark, So also build the
yeah.
profile a little bit.
Well, and like I said, and I think they're going to have a lot more than that too, because he did scrub his computer too. So he scrubbed
Yes.
his computer. I mean, he had like, was it about 30 days between the time the crimes happened until the time he was arrested, basically, approximately. Was it like 30 days around there?
November 13th of 2022, and he was arrested December 30th. So it was
A
about
little more.
six weeks. Yeah.
Right. So a little bit more. They had plenty of time to clean things up. But we do know that according to this Dateline, he cleaned out his apartment, he scrubbed his computer. And what we've also seen with the Rex Sherman case, nothing's really ever destroyed when you're talking about computer stuff, even though you think you do. I mean, the technology has caught up to that. And unless well, I'm not going to tell everybody how you can do it, but there is a way that it can be done where you can't recover it. But
Yeah.
we will leave that quiet.
Tips.
Yes.
Yes.
we don't want our shows showing up on the next docket as people as people
Yes. I learned
watch it.
that from Joe. Oh no.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that would not be a good idea. But the that computer I think is also going to play a huge role in this. So yeah, his internet searches, but the Instagram posts are really interesting to me. So I have Instagram. I'm not very good at it, but like I'm still learning how to do this stuff. But here's my thing, right? So we know that there is quote unquote no connection between the 4 victims. And so Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Goncalves. I can't say her name. We know that there's
Gonsalves. Yes.
Gonsalves. Yes, thank you. So we know that there's no quote unquote direct connection yet, right? Because the prosecutor is not going to prosecute his case in the public. There might be ultimately, but here's the deal: if you go to Instagram and let's say you click on my name, and then you can see who I'm following or who's following me, and you click on them. Is there any record of that per se? So, like for instance, is it a way to circumvent his initial target? Meaning, I'm just looking at all these girls, and then I'm clicking on who they're following, and then I find out who they're following, and then he zoned in on them. So let's just say he found Mary Smith, from Washington University, who happens to be friends with one of the victims or following, and then I click on his following and I go there. I mean, does that leave a trace? I don't know.
I wonder. I haven't been on Instagram in years, so I'm
But
not on Instagram. But I don't know if they would. I don't know. Maybe Instagram would be able to provide those records.
right, I don't know if I'm being clear, but I think you kind of get what I mean, right? So he
Yes, yes,
finds,
yes,
because we know he's searching for women in bikinis, blondes,
yes,
brunettes, and then
yes,
he was also searching specifically for the two colleges. He's searching for the in Idaho and in Washington State. So
yes, yes,
that's so if he finds one of these girls and he thinks he's attractive and he clicks on, oh, who is she following? And then maybe gets in finds out when I mean, how does he zone in on 1122 King Road is to me is the $1 million question. Like, how does he know who's there? I mean, I know Dateline has said that Madison Mogen might have been the intended target.
yeah.
Okay, but they really didn't provide us anything that say why she was the intended target.
Exactly, yeah. So that is still I did a whole video yesterday about plausible motives, things that could have stacked up in his life, but that's more psychological, I would guess. So I think if he were to follow, let's say, one of Madison's friends to then look at them and then find her and then look at her photos, if he doesn't interact with them, I don't know if there'll be a record of that. I think you would have to double tap to like whatever. But Kaylee's family had said in the past that they did find a profile, and I think the dad, if I'm not mistaken, works in IT. Kaylee Gonsalves' dad, Steve.
Yes.
And he said that they found a profile that they thought was legit. Now, of course, there's a chance it might not be. And they had seen that Bryan Kohberger profile had actually liked Madison Mogen's picture. So it's interesting, but we haven't heard anything like that from the court hearings or the documents. They just say there's no link. But as you say, you could just be browsing all of that. Now, why 1122 King Road? It's just, to me, I think he was driving around the area based on the allegations, what they're saying, 23 times before the murders, leading up to the murders. So I'm thinking he was looking for the perfect house to break into, and it really actually was. You'd have to compare to many others, but just from the area and driving the Google Man around, and some people have sent me like dash cam or just filming. That house it was so vulnerable, with the sliding door, the front door, the way it was built, all of that. I think it was the perfect target.
No, exactly. And he might have had different profiles too, right? We don't know yet, and he could have been all that. But there's something that we're missing here, and then I think we're going to find out exactly what the connection was, because there's got to be a connection. Because
Yes.
people say, what's the motive? What's this? I mean, listen, anything can be the motive. We know that the DJ, when he was at the party, right? Everyone kind of thought he was weird. The girl Holly said that he was a little awkward, right, with the text messages. I think she dodged a bullet there, going on the late night hike, whatever, in the
Yeah.
mountains.
Yes.
There's a
Especially if he
couple of
did like Ted Bundy. If he
yeah,
was into the late night hikes with him, if he was thinking like that, is very bad.
yeah, and the videos that he was looking at, Ted Bundy, says you brought it up, right, with the with the the thumbnail with the hoodie
Yes.
on it, right, and then he's taking pictures with the hoodie.
Yes.
Receipts for the balaclava and the
Oh
Dickies
yes.
chumps. I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, I
Yeah, he
guess
went to Walmart.
yeah, even if you are you don't think that he's guilty at all, whatever, the evidence is starting to build up. Let's put it that way.
Yes, yes. I think so too.
Just want to take a quick shout out to Bob. Thank you very
Yes.
much, Rob. And
Oh,
Teresa
coffee.
just became a new. Yeah, you can have a sip of coffee. Take a break. Thank you very much, Teresa. So this Kohberger case is going to be really interesting in regards to a lot of this stuff. Now, I've been outspoken about how I thought the police handled the crime scene, and I think there's going to be some major issues with that in regards to who was entering that crime scene, what time were they, did they have this chain of custody issue, which we're seeing in the Karen Reed trial, which has been a total train wreck about chain of custody. It's important. I mean, I don't understand why we're playing games. When I say we're playing, law enforcement's playing games with this chain of custody like it's not a big deal. I mean, that one video in the middle of the night that they had where these three or four guys in not in uniforms go in the house and they're removing all these bags, and the reporter's like, "Who are you? What's going on?" Like, is there any record of who these people are? I don't care if they're the feds. I don't care. There are protocols that you have to take that have to take place. I mean, if not, you have people
Yeah.
trampling into this crime scene.
Yeah, I was wondering if the suspect, the alleged killer, Kohberger, thought about that beforehand, because he wrote that paper, remember, about not leaving, not contaminating a scene and all of that. So that was interesting because it feels like he was banking on the fact that they would, that there would not only be contamination on the scene with people running in there with the amount of people, but also with the chain of custody, like how that would actually play out. And how unfortunate that now the house doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, well, like I said, I've been an outspoken critic of that too, and I don't. Well, people are like, oh, well, the prosecutor and the defense said that, so let's build a model, but we won't make it to scale. I mean, after a couple of, I always tell people, if I had hair, I'd pull it out, right? I mean, at this point, and then, how did they not know that the defense would turn around and stab them in the back and say, well, we want the model thrown out now too. We want all this stuff thrown out. I mean, how did the prosecutor go along with it? I mean, listen, I know there's all kinds of things going on. Maybe the school wanted it done, and I get it. A lot of political pressure. I understand that, but no matter what, Gisela, people are going to visit where 1122 King Road was every time that they're there. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter if it is, if they build a park there, they put nothing there. It doesn't matter. People are still going to come take photos.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. I mean, if I went to Idaho, I'd also want to see where it all happened and drive around the area and try to understand. So I can just
Sure.
imagine if people are there or passing through. Yep. And so that doesn't prevent that by tearing down the house. Yeah. They were saying it could have been like a biohazard if they just kept it up. But even for the jury to see it from the outside,
Yeah, well, I mean, it'll be a distance for them to drive now, right? Because they're going to be in a different
Yes,
venue,
true.
so to speak. But still,
Field trip.
that's what we have
Yes.
buses for. Yeah, so we have buses.
Yes,
So
yes.
Sheila says, Joe and Gisela, what effect do you think it will have on the jury not to see the house? Yeah, this is what we're kind of hashing out. I think my thing, Gisela, and I want to hear what you think too, is people are saying, well, how can you not hear yelling or screaming, whatever this and that? We do know that there is some voices heard, but we can't test it. That was my thing. You can't test it. You can't go into the first floor, have somebody go up to the third floor and scream and see if you can hear it or not. Because that's people say, well, you have two of these people that survived. How come they didn't hear anything? What, or like whimpering, they heard somebody, they did hear some stuff. But I think that would have been a good thing for the jury to test. Let's put it that way.
Yes, definitely the sound as well, especially as you say, with two unharmed surviving roommates and one where the killer allegedly walked right past her.
Mhm.
Wow. And then you hear the audio from the camera outside with, the like a thud and the dog
Yeah, the dog
barking and all of
barking.
that. So imagine from inside. It would just, I think it could create room for reasonable doubt for some members of the jury if they're not able to understand. Then how did the other roommates not hear anything, or why did it take so long to call 911? That's like the biggest question I think people have all the time, is like, what was happening there?
Yeah, well, like I said, the only thing I could think of is that they just were so in shock. And so, I mean, listen, you're talking with 20 years old, 21 years old, to
Yeah.
see somebody slaughtered, whatever. I mean, yeah, you can mentally shut down. I've seen it. I've seen people just totally go catatonic and not be able to talk, barely be able to breathe. And, that whole fright thing, it's a real
Yeah.
problem. So
Yeah, and I
I'm
mean, we
not,
don't know if they got it right. I mean, of course, DM said she stood there in a frozen shock phase when she saw this person dressed all in black, just with a mask on and just the bushy brows. That must be freaky. But I'm sure a lot of pranks happen at that house. I'm sure we saw a lot of parties at the house. And DM said she was really intoxicated. So it must be really confusing as well, let alone being in fear. And like, let's say people say, well, how could she be cowering in a corner for 8 hours and texting her friend downstairs and calling her dad later and being on Instagram? I don't even think that they knew their friends had been killed in the house. I think that if they did, they would have called 911. I think it was more like, what is happening here? What is going on in this house this weekend?
yeah, no, like I said, there could be some valid explanations about that, and we're going to hear about that. I think we're definitely. I
Yes.
don't think even if it's on video, I don't think that they will have that part in court playing live. I don't think they'll do that to the witnesses. But we'll just take a quick break here, and there's 957 people. I think that is a record for me watching us live. So
Oh,
that is very cool. So, yeah. So please, guys, please remember to hit that like button or subscribe. It helps me out a lot. Welcome to all the Grizzlies. We have Gisela K from Grizzly True Crime here. If you're just joining us now, and we are discussing the case against Bryan Kohberger in the death of 4 students from Idaho. So, yeah, the Madison Mogan part was, to me, when the NBC thing was kind of interesting how they zoned in on that. Maybe they had some other information that they didn't let go, which is possibility. Because I saw some other interviews, in regards to the show, and I forgot the name of the guy who did the show, who was the narrator.
The Dateline show, Keith
Yeah,
Morrison.
Keith Morrison, right? So he
Yes,
he had
yes,
done a couple of other interviews about this, with
yes,
other
yes.
NBC things, and I think that he kind of alluded that they held back on certain things, that they didn't put it all out there because we don't want to ruin the case either. And that's what
Yeah,
listen, yeah, I understand people want to know about certain things, but we don't want to destroy cases, and that's a major issue. The other thing, and I think the Asian female who was the coworker, I think she dodged the bullet there too. Specifically, the quote unquote burglary with the key missing. Yeah, that one is talk about red flags. That whole thing, and then him, oh, come to the rescue kind of thing. And then she wants to date him, and he doesn't want to date her. I mean, I think there are a
Mhm.
couple of females out there that are saying, "Boy, oh boy, did I get away with something here? I kind of just narrowly escaped what was really happening." And we hear those
Yeah.
stories a lot.
Yes, yes. There's quite a few clips in a recent video that I made just to talk about Bryan Kohberger's past. What was he like? Where did he go to school? Who were his friends? Like some women that he went on Tinder dates with. Wow, their experience it was quite interesting, So to hear that, and yeah, I can only imagine how that. Her name was Na Young Ko, and this lady shared an office with him. Even that must be so chilling based on his allegation, the charges now. Of course, he is innocent or proven guilty, but based on the charges he's facing, it must be so scary to be like, what? He was studying his PhD, like in criminology, and I was working in an office with him. Then her key disappears. For those who don't know, on Dateline they showed her key, a spare key from her drawer, disappeared, and then she was scared because she got home the next day or night or whatever, and then she saw that things had been moved in her apartment. There was a cake that she had baked. She said she burnt it. She left it on the stove. She got home, it's in the microwave. That's so weird. Was the cake? Why would someone do that? I don't know. The cake was moved to the microwave, and then in her bathroom, her cosmetics were all lined up on the toilet. So I don't know if it's like on the top or like on the seat. I don't know, but it was like taken from wherever it should be and lined up. That is so freaky. So she was really scared and obviously called her friend Bryan Kohberger to come over because it was late at night and she knew he's a night owl. So then he comes in there and he's like, I think we should install a security system, and he helps her with that. Wow. So then afterwards she wondered, but now doesn't he have access to it? Can't he watch me in my apartment? And then right after that, the key appears in her drawer again. That was interesting.
Yeah. Well, whoever broke into her house had OCD for sure, right? You're lining off all her cosmetics like soldiers on the thing. So yeah, maybe the person that they're looking for has an OCD disorder. I don't know. I
I
don't know if
mean,
there's
could be. I
anybody
mean,
on that
OCDs I
on that
always
list.
try to defend. Yeah, it could be a little more complex. It's obviously more complicated than
Yeah.
that. It's like intrusive thoughts, and but the lining up is interesting. And he's obsessive cleaning, which he did do because he's got that contamination based type of OCD. There's different categories. That's interesting. And also items were stolen. So there is almost mimicking BTK, and I'm majorly speculating. But he studied with under Professor Ramsland, Catherine Ramsland, who
Yep.
co-wrote a book with Dennis Rader, BTK. So I don't know if he was just testing out some of that, like going into the home, taking a few items. Never mind the potential voyeurism. I mean, it really, no wonder she doesn't want to talk to the media. I think she's still probably scared. And I'm
Don't
just
blame her.
speculating. I don't know her,
Yeah.
but I've never seen anything about it. It's just that it did sound quite frightening.
Yeah, I don't blame her. Yes, and word sleuth, we hit over the 1,000 mark on the
Oh,
chat. So that is, we're establishing a new record every couple of minutes here. So the phone calls that he makes too. So we have some serious phone calls. There's a 23-minute one right after
36.
the
36 minutes and a
36,
54-minute one.
54
Three
minutes.
calls. Yeah. Like
So, but we
to
don't know
his
who.
dad.
Like we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, the dad has all the registered, just like I do. I have all
Yes.
all the phones. They're registered to everybody, right? So if something
Yeah.
happened, you know, but there's an interesting little tidbit on that, right? Too. So this is the first phone call that I would call for help because now the father's number, he's flying out there. So
Yeah.
and then driving home with him. So it could have been a call for help. Let's put it that way, right? Maybe he's having some issues and the father, so maybe trying to talk him down, not understanding or knowing exactly what happens. I mean, there's been a couple of people that have gone totally off the rails with the what transpired on those phone calls, but
Yes.
we don't know who's on the other line, but the investigators do. So we're going to hear all about that too. But I think that those are actually very interesting here. Mary Frey, thank you very much. Says, I think if I was on the jury, the house being torn down would not outweigh all the other circumstantial evidence. I can't get past his DNA on the night sheaf. Thanks for this awesome interview. Yeah, Mary, we agreed, but it's still a big deal. I listen, the old saying, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. It's as simple as that, and I don't think there was a big rush to have that thing torn down because, like I said, people are still coming. People are still going there. Even the news media is out there. Well, we're camped out in front of where 1122 King Road was. That's what they're saying now.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's and now with this new Dateline thing is going to be even a bigger, a renewed kind of interest. So people going to be looking at where all these other and listen, is it a possibility that those are the only video surveillance cameras that they have from that neighborhood? I doubt.
I
I
doubt
doubt it.
it. I think they have hundreds.
That could
Right?
be right. I mean, especially if you're living there and you're not part of the college community, and you got all these kids, passed out drunk on your front lawn, and things are happening. There's probably lots of video surveillance on homes all in and around that area. So I think
Yes.
let's hope, yeah, the police were able to secure those. And there could be a possibility that people are just calling up and say, "Hey, listen, I take the video. This is what I got. This is what I found." So
Yeah. Yeah. And those phone calls to his dad, apparently people that knew him said that, Kohberger didn't have many friends. And he struggled. He's actually been through quite a lot in his past. Like he'd been hospitalized for an eating disorder. He struggled with substance abuse and all of that. So they said that his dad was his best friend. So while, yes, he called a number that's on the family plan, Dateline leaned towards it being the dad, which I would also lean towards, especially as you say, the dad would then immediately hear his son is not okay. I'm speculating, but like if he could hear, oh, okay, and maybe already then, as you say, he was planning to like, could you come here, fly out? I mean, was that a normal thing? Was it? Maybe he did because it's a very long drive. It's from one side of the country to the other, of course.
yeah.
But calling his dad at 6:17 a.m., just 2 hours, or whoever, calling a family member 2 hours after the murders. I wonder what he said. And do you think that they would have those? Do you think they have access to those calls? Would they be playing that at the trial or not?
No, I don't think they have that recorded or not. No,
Right,
I don't
right.
think. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
It'll be
they'll have the record of the phone number called and the time frames, and that's what we're hearing. But
yes.
other than that, yeah,
Oh,
to get a trap and trace and all the other things that go along with that, that is, yeah, you got to move mountains in order to do that. It's
yeah.
not that easy. Yeah, for law enforcement to get to listen in on conversations is not that easy, even though
I can
it can
imagine.
be, yeah, it can be done pretty easily with these new phones. People don't understand that, but these cell phones are built specifically for spying on people. I mean, just say, yeah, just say you'll be looking for furniture. The next thing you know, you'll be getting ads for furniture
It's
on your
true.
phone. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's true.
and
Look for
people say, "Oh
true
no."
crime with the Sarge. Everyone, if you're playing this in your house, true crime with the Sarge, Grizzly True Crime. Yeah.
Oh boy. No, so I mean, let's see. And I had, well, the pool party with the DJ, right? That's it. That's, we know that this guy might have been awkward in that kind of respect, but
Yeah.
the destruction of evidence, I think, is like I would say, people, if you're going to destroy evidence, like you're gonna, that's like throwing bleach on the crime scene, and it's just, it's telling in a lot of ways. But Kohberger case is going to shape up to
Oh yes.
be, yeah, I think this is going to be much watch TV in
Oh
regards
yes.
to the true crime community for sure. I mean, I'm going to be watching most of it, but I'm really worried about the crime scene stuff per se. Like they broke it down. They had remember they had the crime scene cleanup team come in. The chief is driving mattresses out on a U-Haul truck. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting, especially coming from the defense. I think it's a very strong defense team as well. So they're definitely going to fight. And I mean, Kohberger's got knowledge on a lot of these topics as well. So it'll be a very interesting trial to see, which is set to start with jury selection on July 30th. There's a pre-trial hearing today, actually, and then July 30th is the jury selection, and the trial is set to start on August 11th until November 7th. So we can just cancel all our plans for the rest of the year.
That's pretty much right. I mean, that whole respect in regards to one of the things, and you know what, Gisela, I'm not, I don't know if you are up on this. Well, you probably are, but there was on the search warrant return, one thing that stuck with me a long time ago is that they made a specific reference to page 118, I think it was,
Oh
in a
yes,
search
yes.
warrant return. Any idea on what that was about? You know,
A
that's
lot of people speculated on that, and I didn't just want to, I didn't want to go there because to me there's too many options. There's too
right.
many books that he could have been reading or options, but
Yeah.
it is very interesting, and I'm hoping we'll learn more about that, of course, at the trial. I mean, those search warrant returns were interesting in itself, just the things he bought and what they found in his house. Yeah, so
Yeah, I
that's
just wish
one.
they picked somebody with better handwriting.
Yes, yeah, it was very difficult to decipher.
Oh my God, it
Yes,
was like reading hieroglyphics. But
yes,
yeah, yeah, that page 118 kind of stuck out to me, and it always keeps in the back of my mind, like what was on page 118? What book was this? And I thought maybe
yeah,
I had missed it and you had found out about it. But that's something that I want to hear about because you know, there's that whole search warrant return is a treasure trove of stuff. I mean,
yes.
the ID cards and all the different ID cards, but you know, switching license plates, you know, shortly after
Wait,
the
he was due for that, but you never know if he premeditated that. You know what I mean? Like for when it's gonna be due and when it's his birthday, then he's gonna renew thing. I don't know. So, but that's also why I wasn't sure. I mean, they did specify page 118 of something, but there's so much that could be discounted because of what he was studying. And I wonder if he also, I'm speculating again, he's innocent or proven guilty, but if he banked on that, like that. Well, I'm studying criminology. So obviously I'm going to look up Ted Bundy. Obviously I'm going to be highlighting these things in these books. So I don't know.
well, just think about if something happened with us, Gisela, our search warrants. I mean,
Oh
our
man.
searches, right? So, you know,
Oh my.
I
Shame.
think that yeah, I think that some of that's going to go away pretty easily because of what he was studying
Yes.
and what he was doing. Mike entered the chat with 5 memberships. Thank you, Mike. That was really nice of you. And we have Mr. Burt Wayne. Your separate opinions on life or firing squad. Interesting. Yeah. So this is a death penalty case. I don't know. I think you have a choice. I don't know if Idaho has other choices, but I know some states when they have more than one way for the death penalty that you can actually choose which way you want to do it. Um, but listen, I always found the death penalty always brings up a lot of different talk about lines in the sand. But from a law enforcement perspective, let's take a look at Gilgo. If the death penalty was still on the table in New York State, you can make a suspect talk and
Hmm.
solve a lot more cases or close a lot more cases and provide that closure to those families. When it's off the table, you have no leverage. So to me, it's a good leverage tool. Maybe he gets forced into taking a plea and to get out of to get out of the death penalty. I mean, anything that you could use as leverage to shorten it up, I think that's the way to go. So think of it
And
as a
I have
threat.
to, right? I also have to state my opinion, right? He said separate. I also have to answer, don't I?
Yes, you do.
For us, I mean, in South Africa and where I live now in Switzerland, they don't have the death penalty. So for me, it's always like it's quite shocking. Although I understand, like just keeping convicted killers like in prison for the rest of their lives and costing you tax dollars is quite hectic as well. I don't know. It's just like that. I never. That's such a loaded question.
Yeah,
So I'm always like,
it's
I don't know. LWAP would be
that
great.
question, yeah, is like taking a hand grenade, taking the pin out and handing it to somebody. Say here, what do you think about this? Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a tough one, Bert.
Eggshells everywhere, and we're walking on it, even with YouTube in mind.
Yeah, because those are another trigger
Yes.
words that they
Yes.
get on. We are approaching 1,100 watching this
Oh
live.
wow.
Welcome everybody. Yep, and I'm sure you know who Gisela K is from Grizzly True Crime. You have 402. I think when I looked at 421,000 subscribers already. That's insane. That is
I think so
you've done an
too.
unbelievable job. Yeah, that is
That's crazy. Oh my word.
that.
And it's like always, if you just think of that number, you're like, that's scary. It's quite
Yeah,
scary
no,
that, but yeah, welcome everyone.
yeah, no. I mean, that's a real testament of because you have great research. I know. I don't know if you have a team going on it. If you don't have a team, it actually looks like you have a team. But
Not.
doing the shows the way you do, yeah, no. Like I said, I'm always in the chat talking and trying to get my snarky comments into. We're trying to outsnark
Yes.
each other on a couple of those issues. So, anything else on Bryan Kohberger before we move on to the final talk? Because we have 50 minutes already. I can't believe that.
Can you believe it? The time just flew, on my word. So today with the pretrial hearing, there's rumor that that the defense will have to name an alternate suspect. They can't just say, well, we have an alternate suspect theory. That the judge is like, you will name that. And so I'm very keen to hear what's happening there and what the final decisions will be in this pretrial hearing. And then, wow, if more information comes out, imagine if there's another Dateline episode or something before the trial. I mean, they're also not the only ones making documentaries. There's a new 48 Hours documentary that also came out. So very interesting, of course, just for anyone, because I know this case is very one side or the other. I'm on the fence. I want to stay on the fence. And I just want to see what the evidence will be that we will hear.
No, I agree with you. Whatever. I'm leaning more towards that. They have the right guy because all these things.
I would lean towards that too. I would lean there too.
Yeah.
But
And yes, everybody's innocent until
on the
proven.
fence.
Right. Everyone's innocent until proven guilty, unless you're in the court of public opinion. Then there are no rules.
Yes. That is true as well. We're not in the courtroom. We're not on the jury. We actually have no impact.
Right. So the court of public opinion can be brutal, as you know.
Yeah.
So as Stacey had said, is it just me that feels incredibly uncomfortable about the circumstantial evidence? Stacey, like I said, most cases are circumstantial evidence. I mean, but we do have there's one little bit of direct evidence, that DNA on the sheath. Was it collected properly? Was it, do we find it odd that we only have this one, piece here? But they're now, according to NBC, there's a chair that looks like the suspect sat down on, like kind of like maybe they were exhausted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe they were exhausted. And that's why he's the frenzy that it takes to get into, especially the psychological thing. So him walking past somebody, he might not have seen that person because he was just zoned out when he was leaving.
Yes. Yeah.
So there are, and I'm sure we're going to hear from psychologists and psychiatrists about these kind of things. They probably have a name for it. I'm sure they do. And I think we'll learn all about that. Yeah. So it's going to be it's going to be a good lesson for everybody too, learning in regards to doing this, because as we know, I like doing quizzes. So there's a couple of things. The quizzes. So I mean, we have a couple of things today. Maybe fruits of the poisonous tree. I think I covered that one just recently, but there are a couple of things that you need to look at, and there's definitely going to be a quiz question coming on our next topic. Aliza Sherman?
Aliza. I also want to say Aliza, but it's her family says Aliza Sherman. Yes.
Gotcha. So Aliza Sherman, this is from 2013, a case in Cleveland, and cold case gone on for 12 years, and then all of a sudden, cops pull a rabbit out of the hat.
Yes.
So, and it's a little. Did I miss something? Like they don't really tell us how they came across this guy. I mean, other than they had cell phone records and stuff like that. But talk about circumstantial evidence there. They have the video, but you can't tell who he is.
Yeah. So Aliza Sherman was stabbed 11 times outside her divorce attorney's office on a Sunday, and I mean, that was more than 10 years ago. And the case went cold, as you say. And then the Ohio BCI joined the team and the FBI. And then we started seeing all those, digital forensics and all of that. And there they built their case against this guy, the divorce attorney who's just been arrested in May. And it turns out he, for instance, said he was in the office the whole time. So he lied about his whereabouts. He said, I was in the office, but they say he swiped his card, but never actually went in. And then the cell phone evidence is so interesting. It's like from just premeditated actions from what they've said in the indictment. I mean, from setting up a hotspot and getting a new phone and then doing all sorts of things with the phone and later deleting voicemails from Aliza. It's a really crazy case with a co-conspirator. Who's that? They haven't made another arrest yet. So that
no, they haven't.
The case is
whoever
fascinating.
that person is very nervous right now because they're worried about this guy rolling over on him, I'm sure.
Yes.
But yeah, that's something, save his own skin, because this guy, he got himself in trouble with another, 2017, calling it a bomb threat.
Yes.
I mean, am I getting this straight, Gisela? And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it looks as if the motive was to prevent her from going to court because he wasn't ready. Is that what?
Exactly. That's what the state is saying at this point, is that in the past, before this murder occurred, he had called in bomb threats to courthouses to delay the trials that he was going to be part of because he needed more time. Okay, that's weird. He did it 3 times. So now they're saying that Aliza's trial with her against her husband, there was a civil lawsuit, and the divorce was going to happen was happening 2 days after that. It was due to start. So yes, right now it seems like from the indictment, the state's theory is that he committed this or had someone kill her or committed this murder based on wanting to stop that trial from happening. That is a very bizarre motive.
Yeah, no. Just hold that one thought. So Mr. Burt Wayne came up and says, how much of the new information do you deem valid? It's all pure speculation. It's all, I mean, the NBC show was entertaining. It's all speculation in regards to that. And I think we're going to have to try to find out, or we're going to hear from the courts about how they actually obtain that information, which, because, you know, they got gag orders and all the other stuff that goes on, leaks. I mean, that could be bad for whoever is involved in it. Does it affect the case? No, because we're talking about civilians doing this stuff. But yeah, no, everything that they came out on that NBC Dateline should be considered speculation, and that's the bottom line until we hear about it in court.
Yes.
So let's get back to Miss Sherman here. So now, yeah, so they got it's craziness when you think about how this lawyer gets himself entrapped in his own mess here, so to speak. Extradition. That he is now saying he's waived his extradition. He's coming back to Ohio from Texas.
Yes, apparently I was speculating when I covered the case of like, what was the timing? Did the police go and get a search warrant at his house or execute a search warrant at his house when he left, where they found a moment, or did he leave because he knew they're going to execute a search warrant? But it seems like one of his relatives passed away, so that's why he went to Texas. And they may have seen that, like, oh, there's going to be a funeral. He's going to be staying there a while. And then in they went. But that case, I just think there's going to be so much more. I mean, who's the co-conspirator? The husband passed away. Aliza Sherman's husband passed away. Yep. I think it was last year.
In Florida, I think.
There's a couple of red flags there, money-wise. You know, there was a few things. So I'm just wondering if anything will come up from that. If he could have been a co-conspirator, because that would be pretty plausible. Not that I'm trying to throw him under the bus. It's just I'm trying to understand the case and how the hell would a divorce attorney or an attorney in general, why would he do something like that to delay a trial? That's really extreme.
Yeah, no, I mean, and they made a statement, said, oh, you know, we don't think the husband's involved. I always tell people that means absolutely nothing. If they come out, you know, they don't, you know, this. So the view from our home, just want to thank you both for the donation there. Thank you very much. So people that say, well, how does this extradition work? Hey, here's a good quiz question. Article 4 of the Constitution. You know, that's if people want to know where extradition comes from, the answer to the question is Article 4. Right? It's the interstate rendition clause. Could be another question there. And basically it prevents people from escaping to a different state like they did a different country and say, like, no, you can't get me because I cross state lines. I mean, basically that's what it's all about. And it's just really about identification. And that's why most people just waive it, because the evidence is there to say this person could be responsible for it, and they're just going to go. And it's a governor's warrant too, by the way, folks. It's not a warrant that gets issued by the district attorney. It's a governor's warrant. It's going to come from the state government. So that's another interesting little tidbit of your rights as American citizens. But but your cell phone data is going to be really interesting in this case too.
Definitely, and follow the money, follow the cell phone data, because there's other people involved with the cell phone data, which is so interesting. Like other people authorizing him to use the hotspot, to use the phone, all sorts of things happening from his law office. Can you imagine if he did that to delay the trial, what he'll do to delay his own trial? He's a very dangerous man. Yeah.
And here's a lesson learned too about the video surveillance that they actually have of the suspect fleeing the scene. I am a firm believer that you get the video out into the public as soon as you can. If it's not going to damage your case or it's not going to let the guy go out on the run, get it out there as soon as you can. Why? Because the suspect in this case, even though he was covered up and he had his face, you couldn't see anything. He had a very distinct gait, right? He had a distinct walk.
Yes.
That to me, when I watch this guy walking into the courtroom, walking into the trial, whatever, that's what I'm going to be focusing in on. Because let me tell you something, it is unique. And if take a look at it again, Gisela. I know you had the video, but just take another look at it, and I think you can see what I'm talking about. It's something to.
I'm gonna look.
Yeah, because we actually had a similar case like that. We had a case where there was 6 kids. They committed a homicide, and we showed the video to different of the schools, the security teams, and the one guy picked out the one kid there because of his distinct walk. He says, "I know that kid. See, he's got that little bit of a limp. That's his, Johnny Jones." And we were like, "Really?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah." And sure enough, we ended up locking him up for the case based on security guards knew how this kid walked and picked him out of the video. Because you
Yes.
get these videos from Mars, they're like crystal clear. You get the ones from the local bodega, and it's like you can't see 5 feet in front of you. It's
Right.
amazing.
Some people are a little confused about what case we're talking about. It's Gregory Moore is a divorce attorney who is accused of murdering his client in 2013 when he had asked her to come and meet with him. So that's the case we're talking about. There was a cold case. Now it's all, now it's all warmed up again because, like, okay, they've made an arrest and it's a shocking arrest. We've done a deep dive on it on Grizzly True Crime, and I'm following it. He's going to be in court again tomorrow, May 16th of 2025. And as you say, he's waived his extradition. So we shall see what happens with him.
Yes. So if the link has been shared in the comment section for Grizzly True Crime, and also it's in the show notes. So there's
thank you.
421,000 people already subscribed to you. So I thought if I say make sure you subscribe to your channel, I don't think there are that many people. But I'll say it anyway. Make sure you subscribe to Grizzly True Crime and be one of the 420, probably 2,000 now as we speak. But Mr. Bertway says support Sergeant, click the bell too. Thank you. He just did. Yes. So we almost made it to 1100. The hour just flew by. Gisela, I want to thank you tremendously for coming on the show here and bringing all the Grizzlies. We got invaded, which was great. A lot of fun. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to keep up with the chat. You're going to have to teach me how to slow down that chat stuff one day. It's just, woof.
It's difficult, especially when there's two of us or more. Then I also find it difficult. Then I look afterwards. So don't worry, everyone. I'm going to be watching the live chat replay to see what I missed.
Right. And if you have any other questions, I'll be answering them. Just leave it in the comments, and I'll try to get to them. I try to answer still every comment, good or bad. I try to answer them all. So my channel's still small enough to do that. But at 421,000, I think you would need to take a week just to probably do one show.
It can get difficult.
I can imagine. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Gisela, you hang out 1 second. Okay. Everybody, you enjoy the day. Have a great one. We'll see you soon.